Good day to you. I want you to hear me clearly today. God knows your heart. He sees the silent prayers, the tears you cried in private, and the yearning you feel deep within for a new beginning. You're not here by accident, and the desire stirring in your soul is no coincidence. God sees your desire for a fresh start, and He is ready to walk with you into it. It's a beautiful truth that God knows you better than you know yourself. He sees the moments you don't share with anyone else, the silent tears, the whispered prayers, the inner struggles you carry. When you're yearning for a fresh start, for something new, something better, God knows. He's not just aware, He's attentive. That longing you feel isn't random. It's not something you manufactured. It's a reflection of the divine design within you. God places desires in our hearts for a reason. Philippians 2:13 tells us, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act according to His good purpose." Think about that for a moment. The very desire for a new beginning comes from Him. It's a sign that He's working in your life, preparing you for something greater. He's whispering, there's more for you. Don't settle where you are. Sometimes we misunderstand what a fresh start really means. We think it's about running away from the mess or leaving behind the parts of our lives we don't like. But a fresh start isn't just about a new environment or a clean slate. It's about transformation. It's about allowing God to shape us from the inside out so we can step into the new season He has prepared. And here's the beauty of it. God's vision for your life is so much bigger than you can imagine. When He sees your desire for a fresh start, He doesn't see it as desperation or weakness. He sees it as faith. He sees it as hope. He sees it as an opportunity to lead you into something that will not only bless you, but also bring glory to His name. But here's the challenge. While God sees your desire and knows exactly what you need, you must recognize that a fresh start often begins in the unseen places. It starts with what He's doing in your heart and mind. You see, God is more concerned with who you are becoming than where you are going. He wants to prepare you for the new season so you can fully embrace it when it arrives. It's about the story of David. Before he became king, he was a shepherd out there in the fields tending sheep. He probably felt overlooked and insignificant, but God saw his heart. He saw David's desire to honor Him and live a life of purpose. That desire didn't come from David's own imagination. It was planted there by God. And while David was longing for something greater, God was preparing him in the quiet, hidden places. In the same way, God sees your desire for a fresh start. He knows the dreams you've been nurturing, the prayers you've been praying, and even the fears that try to hold you back. He knows when you're tired of the same old routines, when you're longing for a breakthrough, and when you feel like giving up. But let me tell you this, God is not indifferent to your struggles. He's not ignoring your prayers. He's working behind the scenes even when it doesn't feel like it. Sometimes when we're longing for a fresh start, we get frustrated because it feels like nothing is happening. We want instant change, instant answers, instant results, but God doesn't operate on our timeline. He operates on His perfect timing. And His timing is always about more than just giving you what you want. It's about preparing you for what you need. Take the example of Joseph. He had a dream of greatness, a vision of what his life could be. But before that dream came to pass, he went through betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. Can you imagine how many times Joseph must have cried out to God, asking for a fresh start? But each of those experiences was part of God's preparation. Each challenge was shaping Joseph into the man who would one day save nations. The same principle applies to you. God sees the bigger picture. He knows what He's preparing you for, even when you don't understand. Your desire for a fresh start is a signal that something is stirring in the spiritual realm. It's a sign that God is setting things in motion, aligning circumstances, and working in ways you can't yet see. But here's the question. Can you trust Him in the process? Can you trust that He knows the best path for you, even when it feels slow or uncertain? Trusting God doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you keep moving forward in faith, even when you can't see the whole picture. It means you hold on to His promises, knowing that He is faithful to fulfill them. Remember what Isaiah 43:19 says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing, now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it?" Notice the language here. God is saying, I'm already at work. It's already happening. The problem is we don't always perceive it. We're so focused on what we don't have or what hasn't changed yet that we miss the small beginnings of what God is doing. Let me encourage you today to open your eyes to the signs of God's work in your life. That idea that keeps coming back to you, that's God planting seeds of vision. That unexpected opportunity, that's God creating a pathway. That friend who encourages you, that's God reminding you that you're not alone. Don't overlook the little things because they're often the first signs of the fresh start you've been praying for. And while you're waiting, remember this, God doesn't just see your desire for a fresh start, He honors it. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. Your desire for a fresh start is an act of faith. It's your way of saying, God, I believe you have more for me. I believe you're not done with me yet. God loves when His children come to Him with that kind of faith. He loves when we trust Him enough to say, Lord, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready to leave behind what's been holding me back and step into the future you've prepared for me. And when you approach Him with that kind of heart, you can be sure He will respond. So don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Don't let the past dictate your future. And don't let the waiting discourage you. God sees your heart and He's working on your behalf. The fresh start you desire is not just possible, it's already in motion. You may not see all the details yet, but trust that God is faithful to complete the work He's begun in you. Now is the time to align your heart with His, to embrace the process and to trust that His plans for you are good. Let go of the things that no longer serve you and step forward with confidence, knowing that the God who sees your desire for a fresh start is also the one who will bring it to pass. Let me remind you of something powerful today. Your past does not define your future. Too often, we allow the weight of past mistakes, failures, and disappointments to hold us back from embracing the new opportunities God has prepared for us. But let me assure you, God does not see you through the lens of your past. He sees you through the potential of who you can become in Him. When we talk about a fresh start, it's natural to think, but I've failed too many times. I've made too many mistakes. That kind of thinking is human, but it's not divine. God does not keep a record of your wrongs once you come to Him with a repentant heart. He doesn't hold on to the things that you can't seem to let go of. In fact, Psalm 103:12 tells us, as far as the east is from the west, so far has He removed our transgressions from us. Think about that. East and west never meet. That's how far God separates you from your past. But here's the issue. Even though God forgives and forgets, we often struggle to forgive ourselves. We replay the scenes of our failures in our minds as though doing so will change the outcome. We hold on to guilt and shame, allowing them to build walls between us and the fresh start we desire. But I want you to hear this today. You don't have to live in the shadow of your past. God's mercy is greater than your mistakes, and His grace is stronger than your regrets. The Bible is filled with stories of people who had messy pasts but glorious futures. Look at Moses. He was a man with a troubled history. He had killed someone and fled Egypt in fear. Yet God didn't see Moses as a murderer or a runaway. God saw him as a deliverer, a leader, and a man who would bring His people out of slavery. When Moses was tending sheep in the wilderness, I'm sure he thought his best days were behind him. But God had other plans. He called Moses not because of what he had done, but because of what He intended to do through him. That's how God works. He looks beyond what you've been through and focuses on what He's preparing you for. Your past might be messy, but it's not your destiny. God can take the broken pieces of your life and create something beautiful. In fact, sometimes it's the very things we think disqualify us that God uses to fulfill His purpose. The pain, the failures, the mistakes, they all become part of your testimony when you place them in God's hands. Consider the Apostle Paul. Before his encounter with Jesus on the road to Damascus, Paul was known as Saul, a man who persecuted Christians. If anyone seemed unworthy of a fresh start, it was him. But God didn't see Saul as a lost cause. He saw him as a chosen instrument to carry His name to the nations. And when Paul finally understood the depth of God's grace, he didn't let his past hold him back. Instead, he declared in Philippians 3:13-14, Forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me. That's the mindset we need to have. Forgetting doesn't mean we erase the memories of what happened. It means we stop letting them control us. It means we refuse to let the past define who we are or where we're going. It's about shifting our focus from what we've lost to what God is calling us to gain. But let's be honest, this isn't always easy. The enemy loves to remind us of our failures. He whispers lies like, "You're not good enough, you'll never change," or "God can't use someone like you." And if we're not careful, we start to believe those lies. But here's the truth. The enemy only attacks what he fears. If he's trying to keep you stuck in the past, it's because he knows that your future is filled with potential. So how do we break free from the grip of the past? It starts with accepting God's forgiveness. When you come to him and ask for forgiveness, he gives it freely. He doesn't hold it over your head or make you earn it. You wipe the slate clean and says, "Let's start again." But forgiveness isn't just something you receive, it's also something you must extend to yourself. Stop punishing yourself for what God has already forgiven. Stop letting guilt and shame rob you of the joy and freedom that comes with a fresh start. Another key is to change the way you see yourself. Stop identifying yourself by your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not your bad decisions. You are a child of God, redeemed and restored by his grace. When you look in the mirror, see yourself the way God sees you, loved, valued, and full of potential. And let's not forget the power of community. Sometimes we try to navigate our struggles alone, but God didn't design us to walk this journey in isolation. Surround yourself with people who will remind you of God's promises and encourage you to keep moving forward. Find a church, a small group, or a mentor who will speak life into you and help you see beyond your past. There's also an important lesson we can learn from Jesus' interaction with the woman caught in adultery. In John 8, the religious leaders brought this woman to Jesus, hoping to trap him with their questions. But Jesus, in his infinite wisdom and compassion, turned the situation around. He said to the crowd, "Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." One by one, they walked away, leaving the woman alone with Jesus. "Neither do I condemn you. Go now and live your life of sin." Jesus didn't define her by her past. He gave her a fresh start and a new direction. That's what he wants to do for you. He's not standing over you with a list of your mistakes. He's standing beside you, ready to walk with you into a new season. But here's the thing. A fresh start isn't automatic. You have to be willing to let go of the past. You can't move forward while holding on to old baggage. That means releasing bitterness, forgiving others, and sometimes even God for the things you don't understand. It means trusting that his plans for you are good, even when the path isn't clear. And as you step into this fresh start, remember that it's not about perfection. It's about progress. God isn't looking for you to have it all together. He's looking for a heart that's willing to follow him one step at a time. The journey may not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Because when you place your past in God's hands, he can turn it into something beautiful. So today I challenge you to release the grip of the past. Lay down the guilt, the shame, and the regrets. Open your heart to the fresh start God is offering you. Trust that he sees you not for where you've been, but for where he's taking you. And as you walk in his grace, you'll discover that the best is yet to come. Desiring a fresh start is a powerful thing. It's the first step in moving toward a new chapter, a better version of yourself, and ultimately stepping into the fullness of God's plan for your life. But let me remind you today, desiring a fresh start isn't enough on its own. That desire has to be met with faith in action. Faith to believe that God can do what he promised, and action to walk in alignment with his plan. We often pray for a fresh start, and we wait for God to drop it into our laps as though it will arrive fully formed, perfectly packaged, and ready to go. But God's fresh starts don't always look like that. They don't usually come as instant, dramatic changes. Instead, they often begin as small nudges, quiet instructions, or open doors that require us to step out in faith and do something. Think about Abraham, who was called by God to leave his homeland and go to a place he didn't even know. God said to him, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. Genesis 12:1. Abraham didn't have all the details. He didn't have a map, a timeline, or even a clear picture of what the future would look like. But he trusted God enough to take the first step. He moved in faith, and his obedience became the foundation of God's promise to make him the father of many nations. That's how a fresh start works. God opens the door, but you have to walk through it. He gives you the opportunity, but you have to seize it. He plants the seed, but you have to nurture it. Faith without action is incomplete. James 2:26 puts it plainly, faith without works is dead. Now, let's talk about what this looks like in your life. Maybe you've been praying for a new beginning in your career, your relationships, or your spiritual walk. You feel the desire in your heart, and you believe God is calling you to something greater. That's a beautiful thing, but the question is, are you ready to take the steps necessary to make it happen? Sometimes those steps are uncomfortable. They require you to leave behind what's familiar, just like Abraham did. They might require you to let go of certain habits, relationships, or mindsets that are holding you back. They might require you to take risks, try something new, or face challenges you've been avoiding. But here's the truth. Every fresh start involves a process, and that process always includes faith and action. Look at Peter, one of Jesus' disciples. When Jesus called Peter to follow him, Peter was a fisherman, busy with his daily work. Jesus didn't wait for Peter to finish his tasks, sort out his life, or get everything in order. He simply said, "Follow me." And Peter had a choice to make. He could have stayed in his boat, clinging to the life he knew, or he could step out in faith and follow Jesus into the unknown. Peter chose to act. He left his nets behind and became part of a story far greater than anything he could have imagined. Your fresh start might look similar. It might require you to leave something behind so you can step into something new. That something could be a habit, a fear, or even a comfortable but unfulfilling routine. And while it's not always easy to take that first step, it's always worth it. Because when you move in faith, God meets you where you are and begins to work in ways you never expected. But let's be clear, faith and action don't mean striving in your own strength. It's not about trying to force things to happen or relying on your own abilities. It's about partnering with God, trusting His guidance, and taking steps that align with His will. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." This means you don't have to have it all figured out before you start. You don't need to know every detail or have a perfect plan. You just need to trust God enough to take the next step He's showing you. That step might be small, but it's significant. It might look like starting a new habit, reaching out to someone for help, or simply saying yes to an opportunity that scares you. Whatever it is, trust that God is in it and that He will guide you as you move forward. Think about the Israelites standing at the edge of the Red Sea. They were trapped with Pharaoh's army behind them and the sea in front of them. They cried out to God for help. And what did He say? Tell the Israelites to move on. Exodus 14:15. Move on must have sounded impossible. But as they stepped forward in faith, God parted the sea and made a way where there was no way. That's what happens when you combine faith with action. God doesn't expect you to do it all on your own, but He does expect you to take that first step. And as you do, He goes before you, clearing the path and making a way. But here's the thing. Action without the right mindset won't lead to lasting change. That's why your faith is so important. Faith is what keeps you going when things get tough. It's what gives you the courage to keep moving forward, even when the path isn't clear. Faith reminds you that God is with you, that He's for you, and that His plans for you are good. Now, let's talk about persistence. A fresh start isn't always a quick fix. It's a journey, and every journey has its challenges. There will be days when you feel like giving up, when you wonder if the effort is worth it, or when you question whether you're on the right track. But remember this, progress is often slow, and transformation takes time. Don't despise the small beginnings. Zechariah 4:10 says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." Celebrate every step you take, no matter how small it seems. Every act of faith, every decision to keep going, every moment of open obedience brings you closer to the fresh start God has for you. And don't forget to rely on His strength. Philippians 4:13 reminds us, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You're not doing this alone. God is with you, empowering you every step of the way. Let me leave you with this thought. A fresh start is not just a moment, it's a mindset. It's a commitment to trust God's process, to take action even when it's hard, and to keep believing that He's leading you towards something better. So as you step into this new season, remember that your faith and your actions are the keys that unlock the door to God's best for your life. Keep moving forward, trusting that the God who began this good work in you will be faithful to complete it. As we close, let me remind you of this simple yet profound truth. God sees your heart, your desire for a fresh start, and He is ready to guide you into a new and better season. Your past does not define you. Your present is an opportunity to trust Him, and your future is full of promise if you walk in faith and take the steps He's calling you to take. So, as you step forward, know that you are not alone. God is with you, cheering you on, equipping you with His strength, and filling you with His grace. The journey may not always be easy, but it will always be worth it because God's plans for you are good. I wish you every success and blessing as you embrace this new beginning. May your faith grow stronger, your actions align with God's purpose, and your life shine as a testimony of His love and power. Thank you for allowing me to share this moment with you. Good luck and God bless you.